Imagine this. You're rushing to catch the most important call of your career when your phone decides to die. Not low battery, completely dead. Or maybe you're sprinting toward the bus stop, watching your ride pull away just as you reach the curb, leaving you standing there breathing exhaust fumes and pure frustration. Sound familiar? Frustration isn't just that annoying emotion that pops up now and then. It's like that relative who shows up uninvited, eats all your food, crashes on your couch, and somehow decides to move in permanently. We've all been there, tangled up in this messy web of irritation, slapping on the "it's fine" band-aid while everything inside us screams otherwise. But here's the thing, you don't have to live like this. Today, we're not just managing frustration, we're kicking it out the door for good. We're diving into 7 unshakable practices from ancient Stoic philosophy that have helped people handle life's curveballs for over 2,000 years. These aren't feel-good platitudes or quick fixes. They're battle-tested strategies that work in the real world. Whether you're dealing with traffic jams in downtown Chicago or your boss driving you crazy in a Manhattan office. If you're new to the Stoic Vivu community, I have a challenge for you. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to upgrade your mental game. We're building a tribe of people who refuse to let circumstances control their peace of mind. Think of it as becoming a rock in this ocean of chaos, unshakable, grounded, and completely in control of your inner world. These 7 practices we're about to explore aren't just theory. They're practical tools you can use immediately. Whether your frustration comes from work stress, relationship drama, financial pressure, or just the daily grind of modern life, these ancient strategies will give you a completely new way to respond. Instead of being at the mercy of every little thing that goes wrong, you'll develop an inner strength that nothing can touch. The Stoics understood something we've forgotten in our fast-paced world. The problem isn't what happens to us, but how we respond to what happens to us. They lived through wars, political upheaval, and personal tragedies, yet they found ways to maintain inner peace and even thrive. Their wisdom isn't outdated. It's more relevant now than ever. So buckle up, because we're about to transform how you handle frustration forever. By the end of this journey, you'll have a complete toolkit for dealing with life's inevitable challenges. You'll understand why some people seem unflappable while others get rattled by the smallest inconveniences. Most importantly, you'll know exactly how to join the ranks of those who stay calm and focused no matter what life throws their way. But controlling frustration is just the beginning. Once you master these practices, you'll discover something amazing. When you stop wasting energy on things that don't matter, you suddenly have so much more energy for things that do. Your relationships improve, your work gets better, and you start enjoying life in ways you forgot were possible. Ready to start this transformation? Let's dive into the first practice that changes everything. 1. Stop worrying about things you can't control, the number 1 frustration killer. Here's what the ancient philosopher Epictetus knew that most of us have forgotten. Man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems. This guy understood something profound about human nature. We don't just deal with actual problems, we torture ourselves with all the ways things could go wrong. Let's start with a truth bomb that might sting a little. Most of your frustration comes from trying to control things that are completely outside your control. You can't control the traffic that makes you late to your meeting in downtown LA. You can't control the weather that ruins your weekend plans in Central Park. You can't control your coworker who takes credit for your ideas or the barista who messes up your coffee order for the third time this week. But here's what you absolutely can control: your reaction to all of it. Your emotions, your mindset, your next move. That's your territory, and nobody can invade it without your permission. Think about that missed bus scenario from earlier. You have two choices when you watch those tail lights disappear around the corner. Option 1. Punch the air, curse under your breath, let your blood pressure spike, and spend the next 20 minutes replaying how you could have run faster. Option 2. Take a deep breath, pull out your phone to check the next bus time. Maybe catch up on a podcast you've been meaning to listen to, or simply enjoy a few unexpected minutes to notice the sky. The bus is gone either way. No amount of frustration, anger, or self-blame is going to make it magically reappear. But your response to missing that bus? That determines whether the next hour of your life is miserable or manageable. In our productivity-obsessed culture, we're constantly bombarded with messages that we should be able to control everything. Social media feeds us highlight reels of people who seem to have it all figured out. We're told that if we just work harder, plan better, or optimize more, we can eliminate all problems from our lives. It's a beautiful lie, and it's making us miserable. Life isn't a never-ending checklist where everything goes according to plan. It's more like jazz. There's a basic structure, but the magic happens in how you improvise when things don't go as expected. Some of the most beautiful moments come from those unplanned detours, but only if you're not too busy fighting reality to notice them. So here's your new superpower: the pause and the question. When frustration starts bubbling up, pause for just 3 seconds and ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, take a deep breath and let it go. If the answer is yes, then channel that energy into action instead of anger. Let's say you're stuck in traffic on the 405 in Los Angeles, watching the minutes tick by as you're about to miss an important appointment. The traffic? Not in your control. Your reaction to being late? Totally in your control. Your decision to call ahead and reschedule? In your control. Using this time to practice deep breathing or listen to something educational? In your control. This isn't about becoming emotionally numb or pretending problems don't exist. It's about becoming strategically selective with your emotional energy. Think of your mental energy like your phone battery. You only have so much charge each day. Do you really want to drain it on things that won't change no matter how much you worry about them? Here's where most people get tripped up. They think accepting what they can't control means giving up or becoming passive. That's completely wrong. It's actually the opposite. When you stop wasting energy fighting unchangeable circumstances, you suddenly have massive amounts of energy available for the things you actually can influence. Take Sarah, a marketing manager in Chicago who used to arrive at work already exhausted because her commute was unpredictable. Some days the train was delayed, sometimes there were construction detours, and she'd spend her entire morning commute stressed about being late. She couldn't control the Chicago Transit Authority schedule, but she could control her response. She started leaving 15 minutes earlier and bringing a book for unexpected delays. Instead of arriving frazzled, she started arriving calm and sometimes even looked forward to those extra reading minutes. The circle of control isn't just a nice philosophical concept. It's a practical tool that changes how you navigate every single day. Your boss's mood when they walk into the office? Not your control. How you respond to their grumpiness. completely your control. Whether your favorite restaurant is crowded when you arrive. Not your control. Your decision to wait patiently or find another place. Your control. Start small. Pick one recurring frustration in your life. Maybe it's slow internet, long grocery store lines, or your neighbor's loud music. For the next week, every time this situation comes up, practice the pause and the question. Notice how much mental energy you usually spend on this uncontrollable thing. Then consciously redirect that energy towards something you can actually influence. The beautiful thing about this practice is that it creates a ripple effect. When you stop being reactive to small frustrations, you develop emotional resilience for bigger challenges. You start to see that most of the things that used to ruin your day are actually pretty manageable when you're not fighting against reality. Embracing this principle is like finally cleaning out your phone and deleting all those apps you never use. You didn't realize how much mental space they were taking up until they're gone. When you stop carrying the burden of trying to control the uncontrollable, you suddenly have so much more room for what actually matters: your relationships, your goals, your peace of mind. The beautiful thing about focusing on your circle of control is that it's instantly empowering. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstances, you become the director of your own experience. You can't control the script life hands you, but you can absolutely control how you perform your role. But here's something interesting that happens once you master this first practice. You start to realize that even when you're focusing on what you can control, sometimes your problems still feel overwhelming. That's when you need to zoom out and get some perspective. 2. Why your problems aren't actually that big, the zoom out trick. Epictetus had another piece of wisdom that hits different when you really think about it. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. This isn't about giving up on your dreams. It's about getting some serious perspective on what's actually worth your mental energy. You know how in movies the camera often zooms out to show a bird's eye view of everything? We need to do that with our problems. It's easy to forget that our personal world isn't the entire universe. Sometimes we need that view from above to ground ourselves and see that the issues we face are just a speck in the grand scheme of things. Picture this: you're sitting in your apartment in Manhattan, absolutely losing your mind because your Wi-Fi is down and you can't stream your show. Now imagine looking at that situation from outer space, where even giant metropolises look like tiny dots on a globe. Your Wi-Fi problem? Pretty insignificant when you zoom out far enough, right? This shift in perspective can slice through frustration like a hot knife through butter. Of course, I'm not saying your problems are trivial or don't matter. What I'm saying is that sometimes we magnify them in our heads, and that's what gives them power over us. We turn molehills into mountains and then wonder why we're struggling to climb them. Here's what's fascinating about human psychology. We have this tendency to make our current problem the most important thing in the universe. When your boss criticizes your presentation, it feels like the end of the world. When your relationship hits a rough patch, it consumes every thought. When your car breaks down, it seems like the universe is personally attacking you. But zoom out just a little, and you start to see these situations differently. Let's try a practical example. Say you're a software developer in Seattle, and you just found out that a project you've been working on for months is getting scrapped. In the moment, this feels catastrophic. Your immediate view is zoomed all the way in: wasted time, disappointed colleagues, maybe even job security concerns. But what happens when you zoom out? Zoom out a little. This is one project in a career that might span decades. Zoom out more. This is a temporary setback in a life that has many chapters. Zoom out even further. In 5 years, you probably won't even remember the details of this particular project, but you might remember how you handled the disappointment and what you learned from it. The zoom out trick isn't about minimizing your feelings or pretending problems don't exist. You can't just ignore a flat tire or a pressing deadline, but you can change the lens through which you see them. You can consider their relative importance in the broader scope of your life, and suddenly they become more manageable. Why does this work so well? Because zooming out shrinks your problems, but it enlarges your appreciation of what you have. If you're healthy, if you have a roof over your head, if you have people who care about you, aren't those worth more than a momentary glitch in your plans? When you're stuck in traffic on the Brooklyn Bridge, frustrated about being late, zoom out and remember that millions of people would love to have your problems. This practice becomes even more powerful when you realize that most of the things we stress about today will be completely forgotten in a year. Remember that huge argument you had with your friend 3 years ago that felt so important at the time? You probably can't even recall what it was about now. That's the power of time and perspective working together. Here's a mental exercise that changes everything. Imagine you're 90 years old, sitting on your porch, looking back at your current life. What would that older, wiser version of yourself say about the thing that's frustrating you right now? Would they tell you to stress less and appreciate more? Would they remind you that you're worrying about things that won't matter in the long run? The zoom out trick also works in reverse. Sometimes we need to zoom in on what we're grateful for. That morning coffee that you barely noticed? Zoom in on the fact that billions of people don't have access to clean water, let alone gourmet coffee. That annoying commute to work? Zoom in on the fact that you have a job to commute to when unemployment is a real struggle for many people. Marcus, a financial analyst in Boston, told me he used to get incredibly frustrated every time the subway was delayed. He'd check his watch obsessively, send angry texts about being late, and arrive at work already stressed. Then he started practicing the zoom out trick. When delays happened, he'd think about the fact that he lived in a city with public transportation, that he had a job worth getting to, and that in the grand scheme of his life, being 10 minutes late wasn't going to matter. The delays didn't stop happening, but they stopped ruining his mornings. This Stoic practice isn't just about mental gymnastics. It's about realigning with what truly matters. When you focus on the big picture, the individual pixels that make it up seem less distorted. You start to see patterns instead of just problems. You begin to understand that most frustrations are temporary, but your peace of mind doesn't have to be. The beautiful thing about developing this perspective is that it makes you more resilient to future challenges. When you've trained yourself to see problems in context, new difficulties don't hit you as hard. You've built up this mental muscle that automatically puts things in perspective. So next time life throws a wrench in your plans, take a moment to zoom out. You may find that the obstacle you're facing is not as large as it appeared, freeing you to tackle it head-on rather than being paralyzed by it. But even with this broader perspective, there's still something crucial we need to address about where we place our attention moment to moment. 3. How to stop your mind from racing. The present moment reset. Seneca understood something about happiness that most of us miss completely. True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. Think about how often your mind is actually where your body is. If you're like most people, the answer is probably almost never. We're always racing, aren't we? Racing to finish school, to land that dream job, to find the perfect relationship, to buy the house, to tick off all these imaginary boxes that society says will complete us. In this endless sprint towards some future version of happiness, it's easy to trip over the present moment, the only moment where life actually happens. Here's the thing about frustration. It almost always comes from this forward or backward pull in your mind. Either you're frustrated because things aren't happening as fast as you'd like, or you're irritated about something that happened in the past. Your mind is everywhere except where you actually are, and that's exhausting. Picture this. You're sitting in a coffee shop in downtown Portland, but your mind is replaying the awkward conversation you had with your coworker yesterday while simultaneously worrying about the presentation you have to give next week. Meanwhile, you're completely missing the taste of your coffee, the interesting conversation happening at the next table, and the beautiful way the afternoon light is hitting the window. You're physically present but mentally absent. In our modern digital age, being present feels more elusive than ever. Notifications bombard us every few minutes. News feeds distract us with an endless stream of information. Social media pulls us into other people's highlight reels. Tomorrow's worries often eclipse today's joys. We've created a world that profits from our distraction, and we're paying the price with our peace of mind. But here's what the Stoics figured out thousands of years ago. By centering yourself in the present moment, you're claiming your time back. It's like stopping a leak in a sinking ship. You're no longer letting your energy seep into moments that are completely out of your grasp. The past that can't be changed and the future that can't be predicted lose their power to steal your happiness. Don't misinterpret this as anti-planning advice. Planning is necessary, and learning from past mistakes is valuable. But letting them consume your present moment is like borrowing trouble from a future that hasn't happened or hoarding regrets from a past that's already gone. It's a losing game that leaves you perpetually unsatisfied. Take Jennifer, a marketing director in Miami who used to eat lunch at her desk every day while checking emails and planning afternoon meetings. She realized she couldn't even remember what her food tasted like most days. She started taking actual lunch breaks, putting her phone away, and focusing entirely on her meal. Not only did she enjoy her food more, but she returned to work more focused and creative. She discovered that those 30 minutes of presence actually made her more productive, not less. So how can you be more present starting right now? Begin by detaching yourself from external noise. Switch off non-urgent notifications during certain hours of the day. Your Instagram likes will still be there in an hour, but this moment won't be. Carve out time to do absolutely nothing. No podcast, no music, no scrolling. Just sit with yourself and notice what that feels like. Practice mindfulness in everyday activities. Don't just eat, actually taste your food. Notice the texture, the temperature, the flavors. Don't just listen to music. Really hear it. Pay attention to the instruments, the lyrics, the way it makes you feel. Don't just hug someone. Feel the warmth. Notice their breathing. Be fully there for that connection. Here's a simple technique that works incredibly well. The 5-4-3-2-1 method. When you notice your mind racing with frustration, pause and identify 5 things you can see. 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This immediately pulls you back into your physical reality and out of your mental spiral. Being present is also a powerful remedy for frustration because it narrows your focus to what can actually be acted upon right now. When you're fully in the present moment, you're not worried about the traffic you might hit later or the mistake you made yesterday. You're dealing with what's actually in front of you, which is always more manageable than the stories your mind creates. David, a teacher in Chicago, used to get overwhelmed thinking about all the papers he had to grade, the parent conferences coming up, and the lesson plans for next week. His mind would race from task to task, making everything feel impossible. He started practicing presence by focusing on just one paper at a time, really reading what his students wrote, giving thoughtful feedback. Not only did his grading improve, but he found the work less stressful because he wasn't carrying the mental weight of everything else while doing it. The present moment is also where gratitude lives. You can't truly appreciate something while your mind is elsewhere. When you're present with your morning coffee, you actually taste it. When you're present during a conversation with a friend, you actually connect. When you're present during a sunset, you actually see its beauty instead of thinking about tomorrow's to-do list. Here's what's amazing about this practice. The more you train your attention to stay in the present, the less space there is for frustration to take root. Frustration needs time to build. It feeds on replaying past events and imagining future disasters. But in the present moment, there's usually just what's happening right now, which is almost always manageable. Start small with this practice. Pick one routine activity each day: brushing your teeth, washing dishes, walking to work, and commit to being fully present during it. Notice when your mind wanders and gently bring it back. This isn't about perfection. It's about building your attention muscle. By harnessing the power of now, you minimize the space and time for frustration to dwell. You can't control everything, but you can control your focus. And when that spotlight is on the present moment, you'll find that many of your frustrations simply dissolve. But there's something else that creates frustration that we need to address: the very things we think we want. 4. Why you want too much and how it's making you miserable. Seneca dropped this truth bomb that still hits hard today. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Let's talk about desire, frustration's closest cousin. You desire an outcome, and when it doesn't materialize, you get frustrated. It's that simple, and it's that complicated. The Stoics had an antidote for this cycle, and it starts with understanding what they called the dichotomy of desire. In Stoicism, desires fall into two categories: natural and vain. Natural desires include things like food, shelter, companionship, and basic well-being. Vain desires consist of fame, excessive wealth, luxury items, and other superfluous wants that society tells us we need to be happy. The key isn't to fulfill every desire that pops into your head. It's to fulfill natural desires to the extent that they contribute to your well-being, but to be very cautious with vain desires. Here's why. Vain desires are like quicksand. The more you chase them, the deeper you sink. It's human nature to want more. More money, more followers on social media, more stuff, more recognition, more everything. But have you ever noticed how chasing after these things leaves you feeling more drained than fulfilled? It's like running on a treadmill expecting to reach a destination that keeps moving further away. That's the trap of vain desires. They're endless, always dangling just out of reach. Take Alex, a software engineer in San Francisco who was making 6 figures, but constantly stressed about not having enough money. He wanted a bigger apartment, a newer car, the latest gadgets. Every paycheck went toward upgrading his lifestyle, but he never felt satisfied. He was always comparing himself to colleagues who seemed to have more. The more he earned, the more he wanted, and the more frustrated he became when he couldn't afford everything immediately. Now, the Stoic solution isn't to renounce all desire and live like a monk. That's not practical or even beneficial for most people. The aim is to manage your desires intelligently, to weigh them on a scale of true importance before getting frustrated about not acquiring what you want. Question the worthiness of that want in the first place. Here's a game-changing question to ask yourself. Will fulfilling this desire genuinely contribute to my well-being and personal growth? Or is it more about social validation and short-term gratification? If it's the latter, you might want to reconsider how much mental energy you're investing in it. Social media has made this problem infinitely worse. We're constantly bombarded with images of people who seem to have perfect lives, perfect relationships, perfect careers, perfect everything. We see someone's vacation photos and suddenly feel like our life is boring. We see someone's promotion announcement and feel like we're falling behind. We see someone's new purchase and feel like we're missing out. But here's what we don't see. The debt behind those vacation photos, the stress behind that promotion, the emptiness that often comes after buying something you thought would make you happy. We're comparing our behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's highlight reel, and it's making us miserable. Let's get practical about this. Start by auditing your current desires. Make a list of things you want right now. Could be a new job, a relationship, a car, a vacation, whatever. Now categorize each item. Is this a natural desire that supports my basic well-being? Or is this a vain desire driven by external validation? For the natural desires, ask yourself, what's a reasonable way to work toward this? For the vain desires, ask, why do I really want this? What do I think it will give me? Is there a simpler way to get that feeling? Maria, a graphic designer in Austin, realized she was spending most of her mental energy wanting a bigger apartment because all her friends seemed to live in nicer places. When she really examined this desire, she discovered it wasn't about needing more space. She rarely used all the space she had. It was about feeling successful and impressive to others. Once she understood this, she redirected that energy toward improving her actual living situation in small ways that brought her genuine joy, like better lighting and plants. Here's what's fascinating. When you stop chasing vain desires, you often discover that your natural desires are already being met pretty well. You have food, shelter, people who care about you, meaningful work, health, freedom, things that billions of people throughout history could only dream of. But you can't see this abundance when you're focused on what you lack. The dichotomy of desire is like a software update for your mind. It streamlines your objectives, enhances your focus, and boosts your overall performance. When your goal setting is less cluttered, there's less room for frustration to fester. You're not constantly disappointed because you're not constantly expecting the universe to deliver things that don't actually matter. This doesn't mean you stop having ambitions or goals. It means you choose them more wisely. Instead of wanting a promotion because it sounds impressive, you might want it because it allows you to do more meaningful work. Instead of wanting expensive clothes because they're trendy, you might want quality items that last and make you feel comfortable. There's also something liberating about realizing that most of your wants are manufactured by external forces trying to sell you something. Advertising companies spend billions of dollars studying how to make you feel incomplete without their product. Social media algorithms are designed to make you feel like you're missing out. Once you see these mechanisms for what they are, they lose their power over you. The beautiful thing about managing your desires is that it creates space for gratitude. When you're not constantly focused on what you don't have, you can actually appreciate what you do have. Your morning coffee tastes better when you're not thinking about the expensive coffee machine you want. Your current job feels more satisfying when you're not obsessing over someone else's career. So go ahead and audit your desires. Once you declutter them, you'll find it much easier to navigate through life with a sense of purpose rather than being driven by the volatile winds of wanting what everyone else seems to have. But even with well-managed desires, life will still throw curveballs your way, which brings us to a powerful mental preparation technique. 5. The weird mental trick that makes you unbreakable. Seneca asked a question that might sound strange at first. How does it help to make troubles heavier by bemoaning them? What he's getting at is something that might seem counterintuitive. Sometimes the best way to handle problems is to imagine them before they happen. This practice is called negative visualization, and it's not about being a pessimist or a downer. It's about preparing your mind for potential setbacks so you can navigate them with grace and resilience. Think of it as mental rehearsal for life's inevitable curveballs. Here's how it works. Imagine your day going terribly wrong. Your coffee spills all over your white shirt right before an important meeting. Your computer crashes 5 minutes before a deadline. You miss your train and have to wait 30 minutes for the next one in the freezing cold. Your phone dies when you need GPS directions in an unfamiliar part of the city. Now take a breath. None of this has actually happened, but if it does, you've already mentally walked through it. You're prepared. This exercise accomplishes 2 incredible things that can transform how you handle frustration. First, it bulletproofs you against the initial shock of unfortunate events. When that Wi-Fi inevitably crashes 5 minutes before your big presentation, you don't panic. You adapt. You've already been there in your mind, so your brain has pathways ready for this situation. Instead of freezing up or having an emotional meltdown, you calmly switch to your phone's hotspot or reschedule the meeting. Second, negative visualization magnifies your gratitude for when things are actually going right. You start appreciating the small things that usually go unnoticed: the unspilled coffee, the reliable technology, the punctual train, the working Wi-Fi. Your joy in life multiplies because you understand how easily it could swing the other way. Let me tell you about Rachel, a project manager in Denver who used to have complete meltdowns whenever technology failed her. One day her laptop crashed during a client presentation, and she spent the rest of the meeting apologizing and scrambling instead of problem solving. After learning about negative visualization, she started spending 5 minutes each morning imagining potential tech failures and mentally rehearsing her responses. The next time her presentation software glitched, she smoothly switched to discussing the key points without slides, actually impressing the client with her adaptability. But you might be wondering, won't thinking about negative things make me anxious or pessimistic? The Stoic answer is absolutely not, and here's why. The aim isn't to dwell on the negative or expect the worst all the time. It's about making peace with uncertainty and fortifying yourself against the curveballs life throws your way. Think of it like a vaccine. When you get vaccinated, doctors introduce a small, controlled amount of a virus to your system so your immune system can build defenses. Negative visualization works the same way for your emotional immune system. By exposing yourself to small doses of imagined setbacks, you build resilience for when real challenges arise. The key is in how you practice this. You're not catastrophizing or spiraling into worst-case scenarios. You're calmly and briefly considering potential difficulties, then mentally rehearsing how you'd handle them with grace. It's the difference between productive preparation and destructive worry. Here's a practical way to start. During your morning coffee, spend 3 to 5 minutes visualizing potential setbacks for the day ahead. Maybe your meeting gets canceled last minute, maybe your lunch plans fall through, maybe traffic is worse than expected. For each scenario, mentally walk through how you'd respond calmly and constructively. The beauty of this practice becomes clear when you realize that most of our frustration comes from the gap between expectation and reality. When we expect everything to go perfectly and it doesn't, we're devastated. But when we've already considered that things might not go as planned, we're much more adaptable when they don't. Consider James, a sales rep in Atlanta who used to get incredibly frustrated when potential clients said no. He took every rejection personally and would spend hours analyzing what went wrong. Then he started practicing negative visualization before sales calls, imagining various ways the conversation might not go as hoped. This mental preparation didn't make him pessimistic. It made him more resilient. When clients did say no, he was ready with follow-up questions and alternative proposals instead of getting defensive. This practice also changes how you perceive setbacks. Instead of seeing them as personal attacks from the universe, you start seeing them as normal parts of life that you're prepared to handle. It's not that bad things stop happening. It's that they stop derailing you emotionally. There's also a profound shift in how you experience good moments. When you've imagined your coffee spilling, the mornings when it doesn't spill feel like small victories. When you've visualized your train being delayed, the days when it arrives on time feel like gifts. You stop taking positive experiences for granted because you've reminded yourself that they're not guaranteed. The most powerful aspect of negative visualization is that it builds what psychologists call emotional resilience. You develop confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Instead of fearing uncertainty, you start to see it as just another part of life that you're equipped to navigate. But remember, this isn't about becoming paranoid or expecting disaster around every corner. It's about touching base with reality, that life includes both smooth sailing and rough waters. When you're prepared for both, you can enjoy the smooth times more fully and navigate the rough times more skillfully. Try this tonight. As you're winding down, take a few moments to visualize potential setbacks for tomorrow, then let them go. You'll find that when life does throw those curveballs, you'll catch them with the grace of a seasoned player, not the panic of someone who's never seen a curveball before. This mental preparation is powerful, but there's an even deeper level of resilience that comes from fundamentally changing how you relate to whatever life brings your way. 6. How to love bad things that happen to you. Seneca had a perspective on life that might sound crazy at first. Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. If you've been nodding along so far, this next Stoic principle might just resonate deeply with you. It's called amor fati, which literally means love your fate. And it's more than just accepting what happens to you. It's about embracing it, loving it, knowing that every experience is a lesson in disguise. This isn't some feel-good philosophy that ignores reality. This is about fundamentally changing your relationship with difficulty. Instead of seeing setbacks as things that happen to you, you start seeing them as things that happen for you. It's a complete mindset revolution that transforms victims into victors. Let's say you get fired from your job. The traditional response is to feel devastated, angry, maybe even betrayed. You might spend weeks replaying what went wrong, blaming your boss, or feeling like a failure. But what if, instead of wallowing, you considered this an opportunity for a career shift you've been too scared to make? What if this forced break gives you time to learn a new skill, start that side business, or find a company that actually values what you bring to the table? Or imagine your long-term relationship ends. It's painful, no question about it. The natural response is to feel heartbroken, maybe bitter, possibly like you wasted years of your life. But what if this relationship ending is the universe's way of saying there's something better out there for you? What if this experience taught you valuable lessons about what you really want in a partner? What if this difficult period leads to personal growth you never would have achieved otherwise? Now, let me be crystal clear about something. This doesn't mean you shouldn't feel emotions like sadness or disappointment. Those are natural human responses, and the Stoics weren't emotionless robots. Feel those emotions, acknowledge them, sit with them. But then comes the crucial part: flip the script. Ask yourself, how can this enrich my life? What is this situation trying to teach me? Take Lisa, a marketing executive in Phoenix who got passed over for a promotion she'd been working toward for 2 years. Initially, she was crushed. She'd done everything right, put in extra hours, exceeded all her targets. But instead of staying bitter, she started asking different questions. Why didn't she get the promotion? What skills might she be missing? What other opportunities might be available? 6 months later, she landed a better position at a competitor with higher pay and more responsibility. Getting passed over wasn't a setback. It was a redirection. Amor Fati is liberating because it releases you from the grudge-holding, blame-placing mindset that can be so draining. There's no room for why me when your default setting becomes try me. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start being a student of life. Every challenge becomes curriculum. Every setback becomes set up for something better. This practice requires a fundamental shift in how you interpret events. Most people have a very narrow definition of what constitutes a good experience: things going according to plan, getting what they want, avoiding discomfort. But life is much more complex and interesting than that. Some of your greatest growth, your most important relationships, your biggest breakthroughs might come from experiences that initially seem terrible. Consider how many successful people trace their biggest achievements back to their biggest failures. The entrepreneur whose first business failed taught them lessons that made their second business successful. The writer whose manuscript got rejected 50 times before finding the right publisher. The athlete whose injury forced them to develop mental toughness they never knew they had. But here's where most people get stuck. They're willing to appreciate difficult experiences in retrospect, but they resist them while they're happening. Amor Fati asks you to love your fate in real time, not just when you can see how it worked out for the best. It's about trusting that even when you can't see the bigger picture, there is one. This doesn't mean becoming passive or not trying to improve your situation. If you're in a job you hate, you should absolutely look for something better. If you're in an unhealthy relationship, you should work to fix it or leave. Amor Fati isn't about accepting abuse or staying in bad situations. is about loving whatever happens while you're working to create positive change. Think of it like learning to dance in the rain rather than waiting for the storm to pass. You're not pretending it's not raining, and you're not standing there getting soaked doing nothing. You're finding a way to move gracefully through whatever weather life brings. Marcus, a chef in Seattle, had his restaurant fail during the pandemic. He could have seen this as the end of his culinary dreams. Instead, he embraced it as an opportunity to pivot. He started a meal delivery service focusing on healthy comfort food for people working from home. Not only did this new venture succeed, but it also gave him better work-life balance and allowed him to reach customers he never would have met through his restaurant. The most powerful aspect of Amor Fati is how it changes your relationship with uncertainty. Instead of fearing what might go wrong, you start getting curious about what you might learn. Instead of trying to control every outcome, you start trusting your ability to find opportunity in whatever outcome occurs. This practice also eliminates the energy drain that comes from fighting reality. When you're constantly resisting what's happening, you're using enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy that could be directed toward more productive things. When you embrace what's happening, that energy becomes available for creative problem solving and positive action. Start practicing this with small inconveniences. When your flight gets delayed, instead of fuming about it, ask what this extra time might allow you to do. When plans get canceled, consider what this unexpected free time might offer you. When technology fails, see it as a chance to practice patience or connect with people in a different way. Amor Fati transforms you from someone who needs life to go a certain way to be happy into someone who can find meaning and opportunity in whatever way life goes. But there's one more practice that puts all of this in the ultimate perspective. 7. Why thinking about death makes you happier. Seneca left us with perhaps the most powerful perspective shift of all. Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. You might find this topic a bit morbid at first, but stay with me. Memento mori, remember you will die, and its intention is far from dark. It's a vivid reminder to live authentically and passionately, focusing on what truly matters. Here's why this practice is so transformative. Our time is finite. That's not a depressing fact. It's the most clarifying truth you can embrace. The notion of death brings sharp clarity to life's ambiguities. Suddenly, annoyances and frustrations seem petty in the face of life's impermanence. Are you really going to waste your precious moments agonizing over a rude comment from a stranger or a minor setback at work? Think about it this way. You have roughly 30,000 days if you live to be 80. That sounds like a lot until you realize you've already used up a significant chunk of them. Every day you spend frustrated about trivial things is a day you can't get back. Every hour you waste being angry about something that won't matter next week is an hour stolen from experiences that could bring you joy, growth, or connection. The Stoics argue that remembering our mortality helps us cut through life's trivialities and focus on what's genuinely important. When you really internalize that your time is limited, you start making different choices. You stop postponing conversations with people you love. You quit staying in situations that drain your soul. You begin prioritizing experiences over possessions, relationships over achievements, meaning over money. But there's another layer to this practice that's equally powerful. Knowing that our time is limited adds a sense of urgency to positive action, prompts us to act, to change, to grow, to resolve not tomorrow, but today. You no longer have the luxury of postponing things that matter. You can't keep saying, someday I'll travel. Someday I'll write that book. Someday I'll tell them how I feel. Someday becomes today when you remember that your somedays are numbered. Consider Sarah, a lawyer in Boston who spent years in a job that paid well but left her feeling empty. She kept telling herself she'd figure out what she really wanted to do eventually. Then her father had a heart attack. He survived, but the experience made Sarah acutely aware that life doesn't wait for us to get our act together. She started volunteering at a legal aid clinic on weekends and discovered a passion for helping people who couldn't afford legal representation. Within a year, she transitioned to nonprofit work that paid less but fulfilled her in ways her corporate job never could. So how can you incorporate memento mori into your life without it becoming gloomy or morbid? Use it as a daily prompt. When frustration starts building over something minor, ask yourself, in the grand scheme of my finite life, how much does this moment truly matter? More often than not, you'll find that what you're agonizing over is not worth sacrificing your peace of mind. This practice also helps you appreciate ordinary moments in extraordinary ways. When you remember that you won't have infinite mornings to drink coffee and watch the sunrise, that morning coffee becomes more precious. When you realize you won't have endless opportunities to hug the people you love, those hugs become more meaningful. When you understand that you won't always have your health, your mobility, your mental clarity, you stop taking these gifts for granted. The essence of memento mori isn't to generate fear, but to inspire action and gratitude. It's a tool to sift the gold from the sand, to separate what truly matters from the noise that constantly fills our lives. By reminding yourself of life's impermanence, you not only reduce frustration but also enrich your existence. Your days become more meaningful, your actions more deliberate, and your time more treasured. Let me share how this works practically. Every morning, before checking your phone or diving into your to-do list, spend 60 seconds remembering that this day is one you'll never get back. Ask yourself, if this were my last week on Earth, how would I want to spend today? This isn't about living every day like it's your last. That would be exhausting and impractical. It's about living every day like it matters, because it does. This perspective completely transforms how you handle conflict and frustration. That argument with your spouse about whose turn it is to do the dishes seems pretty silly when you remember that your time together is limited. Is that road rage because someone cut you off in traffic? Ridiculous when you consider that you're wasting precious moments of your finite life being angry at a stranger. That work stress about a project that might not go perfectly? Manageable when you remember that in 10 years, you probably won't even remember this particular project. James, a teacher in San Diego, used to get incredibly frustrated with difficult students and demanding parents. He'd go home stressed every day, complaining to his wife about how unfair everything was. Then he started practicing memento mori. He began each school day by remembering that he had a limited number of opportunities to make a positive impact on young minds. This shift in perspective didn't make the challenges disappear, but it changed how he responded to them. Instead of seeing difficult students as problems, he started seeing them as kids who needed extra patience and understanding. His job satisfaction improved dramatically. The practice also creates urgency around forgiveness and reconciliation. When you remember that your time with people is limited, holding grudges becomes absurd. Life's too short to stay angry at your brother over something that happened 5 years ago. It's too brief to let pride prevent you from apologizing when you're wrong. The awareness of mortality makes forgiveness feel less like weakness and more like wisdom. Memento mori is the ultimate reality check. Keeps you anchored to what's real and important while encouraging you to live fully. It reminds you that frustration is often just a choice to focus on temporary inconveniences instead of lasting values. When you truly embrace this practice, you'll find that most of your daily frustrations simply lose their power over you, because you'll be too busy living meaningfully to waste time on meaningless irritations. As we wrap up this journey through the powerful practices of Stoic philosophy, it's essential to reflect on the tools we've explored to tackle frustration and enhance our lives. We've learned how to stop worrying about things we can't control, zoom out for perspective, center ourselves in the present moment, manage our desires, and even embrace the challenges that come our way. Each of these practices offers a pathway to resilience, empowerment, and a deeper appreciation for life. The wisdom of the Stoics teaches us that while we cannot control external events, we can control how we respond to them. By focusing on our circle of control, we free ourselves from the shackles of frustration and anxiety. Zooming out helps us see that our problems are often not as significant as they seem, and being present allows us to truly experience life as it unfolds. Managing our desires helps us prioritize what truly matters, and negative visualization prepares us for setbacks without letting them derail our happiness. Finally, embracing our fate and remembering our mortality reminds us to live fully and authentically. As you move forward from this video, I encourage you to integrate these Stoic practices into your daily life. Start small. Choose one practice to focus on this week. Notice how it transforms your perspective and improves your emotional resilience. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Each small change can lead to significant improvements in your overall well-being. If these insights resonated with you, don't keep them to yourself. Share this video with friends and family who might also benefit from the teachings of Stoicism. Let's spread the wisdom of these ancient philosophers in our modern world. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell on the Stoic Vivu channel. Join our community of individuals committed to growth, resilience, and living life to the fullest. Like this video to help others find it, and drop a comment below sharing your thoughts or experiences with Stoicism. Your insights could inspire someone else on their journey. Together, let's challenge ourselves to face life's frustrations head-on and cultivate a mindset that embraces every experience as an opportunity for growth. Remember, you have the power to choose your response to life's challenges. Embrace it, and you'll find that frustration doesn't have to be your master. You can become its conqueror. Thank you for being part of this Stoic journey. Harness the Stoic within and face life's winds head-on. You've got this.